Welcome to Produce Talks.
This whole business is based on relationship and friendships.
Food is darn simple.
What can we do? What are other countries doing?
How important it is for industry to be talking about this.
We're going back to the farm. We're going back to the whole food.
Hi, I'm Wally Burns, the Education and Training Manager at CPMA. In this episode of Produce Talks, we listen to the recording of a learning lounge from the recent CPMA Annual Convention and Trade Show in Vancouver. Moderator Colin Chapdelaine of Whole Life leads a discussion with 4 representatives from the retail sector. They provide their insights about changes in consumer buying and their strategies to enable Canadian consumers to continue to have access to healthy, affordable, fresh produce. Our panelists are Tom Pierce of Sobeys, Jerry Dzikowski of Giant Tiger, Sierra Johnston of Save On Foods, and Mimmo Franzone of Longos. You can subscribe to Produce Talks on Apple Podcasts, Simplecast, Spotify, and on most other podcast players. Welcome, Colin and the panel.
Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming. We want to talk about the cost of living and inflation and how it's impacting retail and what some of the strategies are. So we hear it in the news and social media about the challenges people are having with the cost of living, Canadians, and the impact of interest rates, the housing shortage, the increase in cost that people are buying and consuming daily. So, you know, this year has been particularly interesting for me, seeing CEOs called to Parliament to really defend the pricing strategy and what prices are being charged at the retail. So it's a really interesting issue, and I'm so happy to have this distinguished panel here. We have Tom, we have Sierra, Mimmo, and we have Jerry. So I'm going to let them introduce themselves, talk a little bit about their company, and then we're going to jump right in. We'll try to leave a few minutes at the end for questions, so if you do have some questions, don't hold back. We've got 5 or so minutes at the end to ask questions. So maybe I'll start right here with Tom.
Okay, great. So I am Tom Pierce. I work for Sobeys. I've been in the produce industry 35 years. For the last 7.5 years, I've been with Sobeys. I'm the director of supplier development. So oversee a team that's all across Canada, all across the United States, and we work directly with the growers to make sure that we're procuring the right items and getting the freshest product that we can at, obviously, what we're going to talk about, at the right cost. So, you know, that's who I am.
All right, thank you, Tom.
There you go.
Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Sierra Johnston. I'm the general manager of produce and floral for Pattison Food Group. So I've been in the industry for about 15 years, everywhere from store management all the way up through drugstore, and now in the produce side of the business. So what I do with my amazing team, some of them are here today, is work on really managing the merchandising and the selling point for our customers across Western Canada through multiple different banners under the Pattison Food Group, but largely basing on trying to sell our customers and make sure we're at the right retails and that we're selling the right things at the right time. So.
Okay, thank you. Mimmo.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Tuck it in a little bit more. Just, you can bend the mic in. Yeah. Okay, we can raise the volume. Yeah.
What about now? Good?
Yep.
Yeah, good. Mimmo Franzone, Vice President of Merchandising for Longos out of Ontario. Currently 39 stores all around the Greater Toronto area. Been in the produce industry most of my life. With Longos for coming on 21 years. Oversee merchandising, produce, floral, grocery, dairy, and frozen. The goal for us is to continue to service our guests with the freshest produce and continue to add value every day. And it's in this type of environment, it's tough to add value, especially we don't have a discount play. So continue to drive that value message and the meal solution initiatives to our guests. So that's where the focus is now.
Okay, thanks, Mimmo. Jerry.
Hi, I'm Jerry Dzikowski, the VP of Fresh for Giant Tiger. So we're a small retailer in most of Canada. We do not hit BC, and we're not in Newfoundland. But we have 270 stores across the country, and we are very much a discount banner that has 3 divisions: really food, home, and fashion. And I look up on the food side of the business, and I've been with them for 7 years, and prior to that was at Sobeys for a while and Loblaws, and been in the industry for 20 plus years. So.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for those introductions. So just jump into the first question, and it goes around some data from Stats Canada that's showing 18% of Canadian families admitting that they're experiencing food insecurity over the last 12 months. And most shocking, that nearly 1 in 4 Canadian children under the age of 18 is experiencing including more than 1.2 million children who have lived in moderately or severely food insecure households. So this sets the stage for the discussion. It's about affordability, it's about how do we get food to the shelves. Maybe to start, let's start with you, Tom, if you could give us an idea of, and just high level, what you're witnessing, and what the consumer buyer profile looks like that is affected with these realities.
So I think this is obviously a great question for this time frame. We're definitely seeing a trend in the market. We see a lot more customers shopping the flyers and kind of going from maybe one store a week to shopping multiple stores, and shopping through the flyers. We're also seeing a shift to a lot of the discount. Fortunate for us, we do have discount banners, so that's been a boom for us. So we do see a lot of people shifting this way over there. It's making things a lot more challenging to make sure that we're giving a good offer, which is why we really need to be at this time and in this economic economy that we have right now, need to make sure that we're really working with our suppliers to make sure we get the right quality for the right price that we possibly can. When the economy is doing really well, you can make a lot of mistakes. Where now, on the sourcing side and really looking at it, you really got to be sharp, and you really got to be working with your partners to make sure that you're getting the right quality and giving the right value.
So discount banners. What if you don't have a discount banners?
Yeah, what if? What if you don't have discount banners?
Maybe you and Mimmo can handle that question.
Yeah, we definitely can. Yeah, absolutely. I think, to second Tom, we're seeing the same thing, is really a heavy shift in customers shopping flyers and promotional items. Our transactions are up. However, people are buying less when they're shopping. And we're seeing consumers that, I think obviously throughout COVID, not maybe going to multiple locations, but this time really doing a lot of that cross-shopping, and also going in with lists, knowing what they're going in and they're intending to purchase, and those impulse items are maybe not quite there in their basket. So that's really a big shift for us. And I think the biggest piece that we take away from it, not having a discount banner at this time, is really driving those really heavy promotional items, making sure that we're at the right price on promotion, that we have the right items for the season and what the customer's looking for, and that really we're giving offerings on some of those staple items that would be on a list, and making sure they're at the right retail on those items. So.
Okay.
Yeah,
Mimmo.
That's great. Yeah, same with us. We don't have a discount banner, so what we're struggling with now is how do we continue to drive the value message to our consumer. And one way that we do it is communicating to our guests how do we stretch their dollar. So it's like eliminate food waste, give them recipe ideas to, if we don't want them to move from fresh cauliflower to frozen cauliflower, it's like, okay, what are you making with your cauliflower? How are you stretching that over 3 meals, over a few days? We put out a quarterly publication, Experience Magazine, and we have like an editorial in there. It's like, okay, $100 for the week, and what's it gonna get you, right? So continue to drive solution-based, programs for our guests, because we're not in a position where we're going to be the cheapest on the street, but how do we offer value, give the guests the right product, and give them some tips on how to continue to eat healthy. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think that's kind of echo what everyone's saying is, price is everything. It's paramount right now, and customers are really feeling it, and they're shifting to promotion. They're shifting to different commodity items. Rather than building their basket on value added, they might go and just grab a core commodity item instead of grabbing something where you're really stretching the customer's dollars when the price points are getting over that threshold. And you're starting to see that now with bag salads being over $5. Customers are like, maybe I'll just go buy the head lettuce right now. They're starting to make those decisions. As a super discounter that we're in, we're heavily reliant on government checks. We see we see the volume and the transactions and the traffic increase when the checks come in. But everyone's feeling the pinch, and everyone needs to save money, and they're all looking at their dimes and their quarters and trying to save where they can. So we're trying hard. Everyone has targets to hit, but we understand it, and some of the decisions that we're making and the value offer and the assortment that we're picking now is something 4 years ago we wouldn't even look at. You're like, okay, you know what? I might look at a number 2 potato, or I might look at some peppers with blemishes on them because I want to give that customer some value. I want to give them a little bit more money so they can go and some of our customers have $35 to spend once the rent's paid, once everything's done, and they got to feed their family and put gas in the car. So whatever we can do to keep that price low is what we're trying to do, and it's
okay.
It's a battle.
Consumers are shifting,
Yeah.
and you have to shift. So Tom, maybe how is Sobeys shifting? They're purchasing. How are you shifting what you're buying?
So I think there's a couple different things there too that as we shift over, and I think you talked about it too, is looking at a number 2 program, trying to find ways where we're not wasting food, but we're finding that value to be able to give to the consumers, so that they can make their money stretch farther. And of course, the big piece too is one of the things that we find in the way that we source is that you've still got to stay consistent. You still got to stay with what the customer's expectations are. So when you try to make too many quick moves and try to change what you're doing, then it'll start to confuse the customer, and they won't react right. So you still want to stay to your core and to the way that you've always been sourcing. So you don't want to make dramatic changes, but you want to make sure that the offerings are there and that you're working with them on cost.
Okay, sure.
Yeah, I think the biggest shift for us is, again, Jerry said, looking at some other options. We have really, really high standards and high specs for our conventional retailer, but sometimes it's looking at apples and maybe coloring on the apples, and is the customer seeing that as adding value, or can we take some costs down and give them better value in a price? And then the other thing we look for is opportunity buys. So working really closely with our supplier partners and looking for those chances where maybe they're long on something, we can then buy that at a really good cost, help out of our supplier, and then also help our customer in turn by giving a really, really good offer on the street. So those are a couple ways that we would buy differently. And then I guess the third thing would be really looking at, especially some of these specialty items that we go out in the market with. We do a big peach event every year, and we would used to run a 10-pound box of peaches. But the retail that we would now put out there might not be accessible for somebody coming in with maybe only $100, right? So we have to start looking differently at that, and maybe it's a 5-pound box, right? So somebody can buy 2 if they want to, but they can also only buy 1. So
do you find consumers picking up more often and less? Or
yes. Transactions, yes. The amount of shops and trips to the grocery store are actually slightly up for us, but we're seeing that they're buying less as they come in.
Basket size is smaller, but
down.
Frequency.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we're in a similar situation. Like our model, like we're not going to change our specs, but what we're doing now is, well, we've always done it, but we're doing it more often. It's looking for those opportunity buys and also working closer with our vendor partners. And where there's opportunities, we're shifting, and we're continuing to offer value in the stores. We actually moved. We used to have our flyers, our circulars used to be bi-weekly, but now the consumer wants more deals more often. So we actually shifted that. For like 60 years, we had bi-weekly flyers. Now they're weekly flyers. And it's just to offer those deals more often and being relevant in the market. So. yeah, continue to do that.
Strategies around purchasing shifting. Jerry, is there anything that you've tried or done differently that you said, hey, we've got to adapt pack sizes?
Yeah. We look at pack sizes and like again that retail threshold. So you got to get down, right? Like Sierra mentioned, if you're looking at a 10-pack orange, you might go to an 8-pound orange or something, right? To get that price point down, customers just aren't willing to spend the $10, right? They might buy 2, but yeah, looking at the price threshold is a strategy we've been really looking at, and downsizing. I mean, everyone likes, even in the CPG world, they downsize. Cheese bars used to be £1, now they're 400 grams. Bacon was $4.54, now it's $3.75. Yeah. We don't want to do that, but sometimes the cost of inflation is forcing us to do that. So we're always looking at, the average price, what we can do to get the customers more value, and looking at that threshold.
Okay, and Tom, having a conventional retail and a discount banner, how would you approach that? Like, are there different strategies for each, like that are significantly different? Are you trying different things?
So for the different banners, it's we definitely have teams that look at it very differently, and we'll have different approaches. So we don't just have a one way. This is how we look at it for all the banners. Like, each banner takes its own approach, and of course from the sourcing side, we will make sure that we go out and achieve what they're looking for. So it is interesting that we do have that perspective. As we still have some of the high-end stores, some of the medium-sized stores, and then the discounters, and we do play in that space with our partners, our grower partners, because sometimes we can also then go out and kind of ask them, like, how do we buy the whole tree? How do we get a better price because we're buying the whole tree? Because we can buy the top end and all the way down to the discount level. So it does give us a little bit of an advantage that way because of our scale. So that helps us out a lot.
Okay. When you look at the supply chain, are there any gaps in the supply chain or areas such as regulations where changes could make an impact to your consumers? Are they, we talk a lot about regulatory burden. The government, as a grower, we have multiple audits. We have sustainability audits, and we have food safety audits, and we have, it's never ending. And someone has to pay. We have to pass those on. And you look at sustainability with plastics now and plastic reduction, being able to shift into different packaging that costs more money, it's very difficult to pass that forward, especially in times like this. So when you think about regulation, when you think about gaps in the supply chain, where could, maybe Tom, you could take that and run with that a little bit.
So I'm gonna take that plastic one on that you kind of talked about, because here's something where we obviously need to do better as a whole industry. Plastic is obviously a problem, but it's one of those things right now where we're price sensitive. As price sensitive as the customers are, we want to make sure that if we're regulated a little bit more and we're moving to a way, we just don't want good intentions to add cost to the consumer. This is definitely not the time to add any extra cost because of maybe regulatory for plastics, as well intended as they may be. We just want to make sure that we go slow and make a better decision so that we don't add cost where there doesn't need to be. So I know that's like a big one. That's a lot of concern. And I know when you talk around the trade show floor, and of course you talk within amongst smaller groups, that's always a hot topic.
Yeah, and the Canadian government is pushing a P2 plastics prevention ban that, some of our board members from CPMA are here, Sarah and Mimmo and Jerry, and it's a big issue in Canada because they're trying to eliminate plastic, and there's a protective nature to some, and food shelf life is improved with certain things, and the industry is making a number of strides to be more eco-friendly. But you can't, at this time, how do we pass those costs on? Sierra, maybe you can.
Yeah, I mean, I think we see that consumers are, sustainability is important to consumers, but only to a point. And I think it becomes less and less important when they're worried about, higher needs, right? Like housing and some of those, cost of living things that right now are top of mind for our consumers. So, I would second what Tom said, is that really, honestly, any gap would be anything that's adding cost at this point to the consumer that a consumer isn't getting the direct value out of. And, I believe that how consumers seeing value at this point is that really they're getting the best bang for their buck in what they're paying for when they go into the retailer. So, I think we look at, again, I'll go to, we run an event, we run a blueberry event. We like to have it in a box. It looks good in a box, a cardboard box. It adds too much cost to it. You add another $1 to the consumer and it gets passed on, right? So we have to make some decisions about what we bring in and how we supply things to the customer to keep the retail down.
Great one.
Yeah.
This is regulatory burden.
Absolutely.
If we get forced into these alternative packs, we have to pass that on as producers, and then you have to pass it on to the consumers.
Yeah.
So Mimmo, any thoughts on the gaps that you're seeing in the regulations that could change, or?
Yeah, pretty much echo what the panel's been saying. I think for us, the good thing is that sustainability is still important, but it's way down on the list. We do a ton of focus groups, and they're still saying it's important, but it used to be like number 1, number 2, and now it's coming in like 8 or 9. So at least it buys us some time, because it's tough to pass those costs down to the guests, especially right now. And I think just what's important all around the whole sustainability piece is, it's going to be really tough to eliminate plastic, but how do we be smarter about it and take our time doing so? Because the food we sell needs to still be safe, and there's some people that don't understand that. And how do we rally as an industry to try to figure that out?
I'm going to quote David Coletto from Abacus Data, who's our pollster and our data guy. And he said, what do the consumers want? What do customers want? And the answer was, they want everything. And, as growers in the room, and how do we adapt and be nimble to that when sustainability drops from 1 or 2, and we're working very diligently on packaging and winning the best packaging award for new sustainable packaging, and then it drops to 9. It's I can't quite get to that, how we as producers. So, we really look to the retail for guidance on this. And Jerry, maybe some thoughts from your side on that.
Yeah, we know it's an issue that we have to solve in our lifetime. We got to get right on plastics, but not only in produce, in everything we do. Right? There's plastics everywhere. We're sitting on plastic chairs, your cars, throughout the grocery store, frozen food, everything's in a plastic bag or a plastic carton for the most part. It's a bigger issue, but right now is not the time for us to go in and try to fix it. We'll get there. We'll get there over time. We got to do it right. We got to get global alignment on it. But right now, the customer, sustainability isn't top of mind anymore. If it's, I'm going to feed my family, or I'm going to do what's right for the environment in 20 years, if you only have $10 to spend and that extra $2 because we have a nice package, they're not going to buy it anymore, and nor should they, right? So we know as an industry, as a retailer, there's an issue, but we got to do it right, and it's going to take some time.
Okay, interesting times for everyone. Yeah. You're challenged as the retail to put the value out. Growers, everyone's challenged. Awesome. I just want to give you the opportunity now to maybe wind up the conversation with maybe a key point, on something that you'd like to make on this topic of, we've got people that are supplying all of your retails. What advice would you give someone who's maybe challenged by this, trying to get, the right product at the right price so that you can take it forward and promote it? Maybe Mimmo, go ahead.
I'll start with that. I think, throughout my career, I try to make all relationships not really transactionable. Like, it's a tough time for everyone. Markets do change, and we all know that. But we have to understand that maybe the high shouldn't be that high on the grower side or on the retail side. So how do we work together as an industry and our valued partners is, how do we get that sweet spot so we can continue to sell produce and increase consumption and have the right retails out there without getting it out of hand, right? Like, nobody wants to pay $8.99 for a 3-pack Romaine heart. and sometimes the market allows our partners to sell it that high, but yeah, we got to try to work together and try to. It's just a tough time, right? And it's like it shouldn't be we should be walking before we're running and try to get there.
Partnership, collaboration with your suppliers. Jerry, any thoughts?
Yeah, kind of further onto that. Yeah, partnership, collaboration, innovation. A lot like Mimmo mentioned is, we don't like to do transactions. We like to build partnerships. We like to be fair and equitable to everybody. And don't be afraid to if you're reaching out to one of us, we don't get back to you. We're just busy, but we try to have the time and we try to do something that's fair for everyone. We just have to make sure it works for our customer, our dynamic, and our overall strategy. Which here we all have different strategies, different dynamics in our company, but at the end of the day, we're going to try to work together and be fair for everyone, and ultimately get Canadians saving money and not spending as much money on food.
Okay, Sarah, I'm going to go to you, and then we'll.
Yeah, so I think that really one of the takeaways is just that we are seeing the shift in the consumer, and I think being able to be nimble and working together and what that means, again, whether it's promotional sequence, whether it's cost, whether it's, changing packaging size, whatever that looks like. I think, working together is going to be really, really important as we kind of get through this. And then also being just really hyper aware of that consumer, right? Just really watching how that's going, what are customers buying, what's important to the customer's basket now. I think that that's becoming more and more important. So I think that that's a really, really big takeaway for me. So work together, and I think we can kind of get there. And also to not forget that there's also another customer still, right? There's a lot of customers, obviously, that are concerned about the value of the dollar, but there's still customers that look for innovation and are looking for, those added items and that excitement. So not to, isolate that customer either. I think that's still really, really important that we cater to that customer that's looking for a top grade product or innovation within the department, right?
Great point. Yeah, I think people still want that special item, and if they're not going to the restaurant, they are going to the grocery store.
Yeah, you certainly don't want to fire any of your customers by making those decisions, right? They're just might be a little bit less of them, or they're a little bit more cognizant of it, but you don't want to fire your customers.
Yeah.
Right. So.
And this won't be forever either, right? Yep. So the reality is that we'll go through flows, ebbs and flows, and yeah.
There's definitely lots of innovation on the floor, lots of great new products, and I see the excitement, of people putting out their products, and can't wait to see them on the shelves. Maybe Tom, just to wrap it up.
I'm going to echo everything that they've talked about, and maybe just add a couple things too, because it really is about partnership. It's about making sure that you have the right partners that are going to help you grow their business, and you help grow their business. But I think one of the other big key things that we always need to make sure that we're looking at, well, there's two things, is obviously the customer and what we're offering the customer, and we're all here. That's what we're trying to do as an industry. But the other thing too it's one of the big things that we also see a lot, and I know everybody else here is the actual farmer, the actual person who's walking the fields and planting that stuff. There's a lot more farmers who are going out of business, and we need to make sure that we're making this profitable for them as well too, in the end. So we can't forget them as well. We can't keep going to that well. We need to make sure that the farmers are making money.
Excellent.
Because we can't go away.
We've got about 5 minutes left, and we do have Jane with the mic, and I see a hand up already for a question.
Hi, folks. Thank you so much for a great presentation. I'm wondering, in an environment where you have so many customers who are budget constrained or more price sensitive than ever, how are you seeing the role of your loyalty programs change as far as offering perceived value and or stemming leakage to your competitors? Because you talked about, you're seeing people do multiple trips, multiple shops, whereas before they tend to be a little bit more loyal. Wanted to get your take on that.
I can jump in. Yeah, I think that loyalty programs are I think they're important. I think they're great for a lot of different reasons. But I think that in times like this, the way that you can use a loyalty program is really to have personalized offers for a customer. So ultimately what your customer is purchasing, and most loyalty programs have some personalization abilities or capabilities. But that's something that we've really looked at. If you're always buying bagged salads, you might get an offer that's going to get you to maybe buy 2 bag salads the next time you come in versus 1. And if you never buy bag salads because maybe you're going to buy a head of lettuce, then maybe we can offer you an offer on that, right? So I think that there's definitely a role that loyalty plays in that, just because you are able to target a lot of different customers. Your discount conscious customer, or your maybe your more affluent customer. So yeah.
Okay, Tom, did you have any, or Mimmo?
Jerry? I think it's going to be ever more important and valuable, and customers are actually, I see in the next 3 years, it's going to be really beneficial for them. As AI gets better, they can mine that data and understand what really truly influences each customer and their shopping habits, and they will target an offer for them, specific for them, that will actually entice them to come to your store, and it'll spit it all out quicker than we can even come up and strategize about it. So I think that's where it's going to go. I mean, we're not sure if that technology will be available or affordable for all the people, but I see that as an opportunity for loyalty in the next coming years.
Yeah, data-driven. We got time for one more question, I think. Go ahead. Thank you.
So the question I have is, this inflation is very different from the previous inflations we studied. The habit change is now going to be more permanent because produce has always bounced back from previous inflation. This is even made more different because of COVID. So you've got eating at home, preparing different recipes, which has changed consumer behavior. How are you as retailers prepared to reset the stage for the future shopping that's taking place?
Wow, good question. I think, do you want to tackle that, Mimmo?
Well, yeah, I think it's a great question. The consumer is changing, continues to change, and just to go to the other question, like loyalty, like you really understand your guests, you really understand how they're shopping and what their needs are. We have a small set of stores in a tight market, so for us it's easier because we're just dealing with consumers in the Greater Toronto area where some of the national change it's a little harder because they have different consumer behaviors throughout the country. But I mean, it's continuing to engage your customer base and understanding what they want and stay ahead of that. But it's not going to be easy, that's for sure.
Tom, do you want to?
So I think that's a great question because obviously through COVID we saw a completely shift in the way that people consumed, and then coming out of it I saw another shift, and now we're seeing another shift. And once again, it's really making sure that you're staying aware of what's going on, you're staying ahead of the curve, and you're paying attention to your customers through loyalty, through loyalty cards and understanding what their needs are so that you can best target them and provide them what they're looking for, because their needs are changing, and you have to keep shifting what you're doing for them and how we're doing it. And luckily for what we do, we have so many different banners that it allows us to kind of see and gauge things. So we may see that there's success for something that's in our discount banner that we may be able to cross over and do in one of our other banners, or we might be, or vice versa. So it's having that ability to learn and to continue to provide good quality food.
Okay. Well, with that, we're on time. I really want to thank our distinguished panel for being here and sharing their thoughts and insights on this. This is the topic. This is a very, very important topic, and thank you everyone for being here and taking time to join our group. And I hope you have a great rest of your show. And thanks again for coming.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone. And to the listeners, thank you for listening. Remember, you can subscribe to Produce Talks at Apple Podcasts, Simplecast, Spotify, and on most other podcast players. Until next time, fill half your plate with fruits and veggies, continue to seek out new knowledge, and basically never stop growing.